Hello everybody, Gumjaw here, and welcome to this post-run commentary of the current world record run for Cat Quest 2. It is the world record as of April 2nd, 2020, so hopefully that lasts a while to keep this video relevant. And yeah, so before we start, I'm just going to go over the story real quick. Long story short, there once upon a time was two kings, a cat and a dog, and they fell to the corruption of this evil force named Alias. And there's a prophecy that one day the two kings will return and save the day. In addition to that, there's this mythical sword called the King's Blade that was created to defeat any foe, but it was deemed to be too strong, so it was separated into shards, and that's all we have there. So without further ado, let's get right into the run, shall we? Okay, so right off the bat, we start as two characters. We play as two characters for the entire game, a cat and a dog. One is going to be controlled by the AI, the other is going to be controlled by us. Now we can swap between each character just by pressing the Y button, and we're going to use that to balance out our equipment and our magic, and generally make use of the fact that we essentially have two characters worth of space to use. Now coming into this cave, you can see we're going to be picking up our first two spells. It's going to go one on each of the characters, Flame Purr and Freeze Paw, and we're going to use that to quickly dispatch these guys here. Now we can reallocate the spells later, and you're going to see us do that as the run goes on. We're going to be able to reassign both those spells onto the cat, but for now we're going to leave it as is. This is the little tutorial dungeon explaining you how to do stuff. And you'll notice that we're rolling everywhere. So rolling is the fastest method of movement in this game, and we'll actually pick up some items later that will make our rolling faster. The little spirit that's talking to us here is Kiri. She's our basically guide, our Navi character, and kind of explaining to us what's going on. She goes, hey, you guys are the prophesized return kings. You gotta come with us because Wolfen and Lioner, these evil kings, have taken over your kingdoms, and you need to go reclaim it. So right off the bat, we've just exited a king's marker, this little pillar we're standing in front of. That's the waypoint system in this game. So Kiri wants us to go talk to Kit Kat over to the right there, but we're going to take our first major detour, and this is where we're going to break from the traditional path of this game and go right into a super high level 99 dungeon and try to steal some treasure. So the way items work in this game, or treasure chests, is you can only open them if you don't have any aggro, and the game tries its best to make sure that there's enemies between you and the treasure chests. Thankfully for us here, we can get just far enough away in certain situations where we can de-aggro them and steal some of this loot. The way loot works in this game is every treasure chest has like an assigned, I guess, value of level of the loot. And if you are able to pick it up, it will give you at that level. And if you already have the item, like you just see here, it will level it up some more and make it stronger. So we just got the same piece twice, the skeleton king armor, which gives us defense, but most importantly, a bunch of magic. So that means these two spells here, which we're going to put on the cat, as well as the armor, now has a lot more damage, even though we're only level 2. So we're not done with our pre-game grinding or setup. We're going to go into these ruins here. And these ruins are basically like little wave-based encounters, and if you beat them, you get the treasure. This one is actually early game, so you can see it's level 10 stuff, so we're, I guess, technically under-leveled, but with the Skeleton King armor, our spells can one-shot most things here and make it pretty damn easy. One thing we need to do, if you look, is manage our mana. So the purple bar under our health is our mana, and we get mana back by hitting things, by actually attacking. So that'll become more relevant as the game goes on and stuff doesn't get one-shot. What we just picked up there is the Ranger Axe. We're going to do a quick quit warp back to the first King's marker to get back into town faster, and then we're going to equip the Ranger Axe that we just picked up. The Ranger Axe is the first item that increases our roll distance. So I don't know if it's visible to you, but we're rolling slightly farther now with our rolls. And with that little bit of grinding done, we're going to go right into our first main storyline quest. We are looking for Kit Kat, who went into a... Well, I guess we're trying to talk to her, and there was a note on the door saying she's gone looking for supplies. So our dog here sniffs her out. We go to this cave, and she's calling for help from inside the cave. And this is the weird part. She's crying for help from outside, but when we get in, she's like, oh, hey, you're here. Can you get those ores? I'm too lazy to get them. So I feel like there's a weird discrepancy in the writing there. Anywho, so we go get these ores, and this is another early level dungeon, so the fact that we have our Skeleton King armor means we can just one-shot everything with Flame Purr, and away we go. So now that we've helped out Kit Kat, she says, hey, I'll meet you back at our shop. And our Cat King here has clearly got a thing for her. And as we return, one of the soldiers is harassing Kit Kat and telling her, pay your taxes, they've gone up. As we go inside, we get introduced to Kit Kat. She's the armor upgrade person, so you can pay her to upgrade your armor. And she's also obviously a major plot NPC. From this point, we're just going to continue with the storyline, and we're heading over to the Arcane Headpotters, which is basically our magic upgrade place. So we show up, and they're like, oh my god, a dog, we're being invaded. And Kiri's like, no, don't worry, they're cool. So we're like, oh, okay, sweet. And we get to head inside, and we're going to actually spend some points on our magic here. There's multiple ways to do this, but I'm putting 2 into Flame Purr, and 2 into Freeze Paw. Most normal routes want you to put 4 into Flame Purr, but I missed a chest somewhere along the way and didn't have enough money, so this is the backup. And it works out, because you do use Freeze Paw a little bit early on, so the extra levels will help you slightly. So as we come out, we encounter these soldiers here who are trying to oppress the mages, and we go and defend them. And all we've been doing right now is leading up to our eventual retaking of Felongard, I think it's the kingdom, from Lioner. So we've met Kit Kat, we've met the mages, and we're like, wicked, we've saved them, let's go get our throne back. So we roll our way up here, continuing the quest, and we're going to go to the capital, where we're going to talk with Kiri, and she's going to say, you ready to reclaim your throne? We're like, yeah. And we look over, and here's Lioner, and he's talking with his 2 jesters about some sort of preparations, and then he saunters off. And that's a bit unfortunate for us, because we're just trying to usurp him, but he just ran away. So we're gonna chase after him, and this is one of the few moments where we get the dog's scent kind of thing. So he leaves a trail behind, we gotta pick which way. So we roll after him, and then gasp! Something happens, and lo and behold, he lured us into a trap on this island. So he sends his 2 jesters after us, and again, we're leveled up. Normally you'd be able to beat these people, the jesters, but we blow them up, and then he says, hey, do I have to do everything myself? And starts fighting us. He is truly invulnerable in this. There is nothing that does damage to him. You cannot beat him. It's just a time limit. A thing of note, you might see that we're specifically not picking up those blue orbs, the experience on the ground. For the rest of this section, we're going to be actually trying to avoid as much experience as possible. So eventually Lioner basically says, well, you guys are a pushover, enjoy being stranded on this island. And thankfully there's this King Sigil, this little ruins right here that I don't think he thought we could go through. So we're going to take that all the way back and run into our first actual boss of the run, which is this statue, this old master statue. And it tells us, if you want to prove that you are King's blood, defeat this thing. So we're like, okay, we can do that. Now this starts with a shield up that reduces all damage to 1. So we just kind of lure it into a good position until the shield goes down, and then we just beat it up before it puts up the shield the second time. So we are going to grab the XP from this. We get a King Sigil from it, which tells us, hey, You want a sword that can beat up anybody? You should make the King's Blade. And we're like, oh, we can't beat up Lioner. Let's make this King's Blade. So we return to the mainland, and Kiri finds us and goes, oh my god, I was so worried. What? You couldn't even hurt Lioner, but you found this King's Mark? Okay, I hope it wouldn't have to come to this, but let's go talk to Kit-Kat, and she'll tell you more about what's going on. So we dodge our way over here, and you can see I aggroed that little hedgehog there. You can't even talk to quest NPCs if an enemy's on you. So navigating past enemies when you're trying to go to quest is a little bit of the optimization as well. So we talked to Kit-Kat, and she basically tells us that she actually was one of the people that forged the King's Blade when it was originally made. So if we want to know more, to come with her. So this section here, if we didn't level up Freeze Pod, this freeze right there would not kill everything. So my route just gets us a little more out of it. Unfortunately, we picked up a lot of XP there, just because of where it spawned. So normally we'd want to avoid a little bit more of the XP, but it worked out for us. So we've come over here, and Kit-Kat's like, "Hey, if you want my help with the shards of the King's Blade, defeat me, and I'll tell you more." So we roll over, and notably, we're gonna avoid the XP on the right. Just gonna grab a little bit of money here, and then we're gonna beat her up, which is still not really an issue. At this point, most enemies don't really do significant enough damage to us to force us to do anything but just face tank. So we beat her up. She gives us Leonardo's key to get into these ruins where one shard of the King's Blade is kept. And she says, you know what? You two are alright, and walks away. So our cat's still swooning over her, and we're going to take the straightest route straight to Lioner's trial or tomb or whatever it was called. King Leonardo Ruins. So Kiri's there, says, hey, this is very hard. So this is normally a part in the game where we would be told, hey, go do some side quests and get better. But we're just going to roll on straight in here. The gimmick of this area is you want to go to the teleporters that have the little lights beside it. So we're just going to beat this guy up. And in the next room, we're going to get our first additional item. So we're going to blow this guy up because we need him dead to actually access this teleporter. And we're going to let the damage over time from the fire kill him. And we're going to open this chest and get our Ninja Katana. And that gives us a 20% chance to crit, or additional 20% chance to crit. So we've swapped our Ranger Axe onto the dog. And I'll explain about the rolling after this boss fight. So there's a shard. This boss fight is a dragon with some of these firefoxes. They're all weak to ice. So we've set up our XP perfectly so that we can use 2 ices, grab up some XP, level up, which brings us right back to full, and then use more ice pretty much instantaneously to melt this boss. So that saves a chunk of time to do that. And now we don't have to worry about managing our XP anymore. So we're going to pick up this shard. And we pick up the shard, we get power rolling, which basically lets us do some damage when we roll through things. And we're going to head our way back to Kit-Kat to talk to her about that. However, when we come out, where you see those 2 little jesters, they've been spying on us, and they're going to chuckle to themselves and roll away. So, like I mentioned, we have the Ranger Axe on the dog now. So whenever we want to move, we're going to switch to controlling the dog, and then we're going to go back to the cat to actually fight. So before we continue with the main quest, this is our next detour. This is the Whisk Cove, and we're actually going to kill everything in here. Because in this route, this is the first, I think the only real instance of RNG that is routed in. And that chest on the right with the skull, that is a skull chest, a silver chest, an enemy chest, whatever you want to call it. When you kill all the enemies in the room, it unlocks, and it has some random treasure in it. We are hoping for what we ended up getting here, which is a Ranger Vest. So all the Ranger items increase our roll speed. We're then going to come over here and pick up Berserk, which is a buff spell that makes both our characters do more melee damage. And then we're going to put the vest and the axe on the dog, and you can see we are rolling noticeably farther now. And we're going to put Berserk on the cat. Then we're going to come up here to this waypoint right back down to the start of the game, or I guess the start of the mainland portion, and then go continue on with the plot. So normally that treasure chest where we got the ranger vest, if you were grinding for world record, that would be your reset point. If you don't get the ranger vest, you just reset right there, because our estimates is that you save about a minute to a minute and a half just by having the ranger vest, and every single time you roll getting a little bit of extra distance. So anyway, we're back here with Kit Kat, and she talks about how she wasn't the only one who forged King's Blade. She actually worked with a dog named Hado Doggo, and in order for us to finish building the King's Blade, we need to go talk with him. Now, she doesn't really care much for him, so she's doing this reluctantly. But she's, understands the necessity of the situation, so she is going to take us there regardless of her feelings. So this is just a little escort section. We're just trying to make sure we reach her nodes as quickly as possible. And she brings us to the statues here. Asks us if our dog king is excited about going back to his kingdom. And she says, okay, here, I'll unlock this underwater bridge, and off you go. Now, halfway up the bridge, we get ambushed by Liner again, and Liner's still invincible, so we just have to beat these two jesters. But at the end of this, we're going to need to lure them to the bottom of the bridge. So we're trying to take this fight and fight in that general direction, because Liner's actually pretty slow, and the jesters move quite fast. So as long as we can kind of move in that general direction, we can make this work. However, if you notice our life, we're actually like very close to dying. So we've reached the point where our early skeleton armor is not going to be enough to keep us alive and through just plain face tanking. So we end up luring Liner down, and Kit Kat throws up these red lines, which are never explained what they are other than red lines. And for whatever reason, he's trapped. And she tells us to run away, so we escape to the Dog Kingdom, the Lupus Empire. So at this point, she points us over to Hado Doggo and says good luck, and we head on out. Now we are in the Dog Kingdom, and don't worry, we're going to be going back to Felingard eventually, but for now, we're going to go check on Hado Doggo. So, much like Kit Kat, we go to see Hado Doggo, and there's a note on the door saying, oh, he's off grabbing supplies. So we're like, okay, let's go find him. But the soldiers at the gate stop us and say, under orders of Lord Wolfen, no one's allowed to pass. Wait a minute, is that a cat? And our dog king's like, no, don't worry, he's my prisoner. So they're like, oh, okay, cool, but you're still not allowed to pass. So we need to figure out how we can get through these guards. And we end up asking around for help, and we talk to this person who's like, you know what? Guards like dog biscuits. And you know who has dog biscuits? This person. And this person's like, you want a dog biscuit? That's gonna be 1,000,000 gold. Or I lost my favorite dog bone in that cave. Can you go get it for me? So this is a required side quest, and we're heading into Rough Cove. Now these little laser things do percentage damage, so percent of your max HP. And they can add up. But we need to get this bone, so we're going to be luring these enemies over here, using the freeze to slow them down, and then dashing over to this bone so we can de-aggro them and grab them. This chest that I just tried to go to also has a flame wand that does help us, but is not necessary. So usually I'll just roll over to it, and if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And I didn't there. So we take our bone, bring it back to this person. She gives us our dog biscuits, and we're going to go give them to the guards to let us mosey on through. They take their biscuits, go on break, and now we're going to head on up. So moving through the desert here, the most important part is making sure we don't aggro enemies. Because if we get aggro by these cactuses here, they actually move quite fast, and we'd have to run quite a far way before we could come back and talk to the NPCs. So all our movement here is going to be about avoiding the cactuses. So we see Wolfen up there, and we're going to go talk to this guard about him. And the guard immediately recognizes us as someone he's been warned about, so he calls some other guards to rough us up. This is the first instance where we're really not just one-shotting enemies, and you can see managing our mana and trying to keep all the enemies together is important, so that every time we do use a flame per, we get maximum damage. You probably aren't able to notice it that well, but sometimes you'll also see us, our sprite will suddenly become larger. That's us, that's Berserk, which means our melee attacks are doing more damage. You might see it here. I don't know if I use it here. I personally like to prefer Flame Per as a use of my mana for like most situations up into a certain point in the game. But I might bust it out now. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, so this is Hoto Doggo, and he challenges us to prove our strength. And he's got this little wind barrier that we're going to see in multiple other fights. When you're in the wind barrier, you can't attack. You just take constant damage, and it sucks. So we beat him up, and he notices that we're King's Blood, and says, "Okay, come back to my hot dog stand." And he will tell us more. So here you see we got the cactuses on us, but we're actually running quite a ways away. We don't have to worry about them sticking onto us. And we go into his little room, and he is the weapon smith type person. So he acknowledges that he doesn't like Kit Kat either. He gives us a key to where the next shard is, and then we actually are going to use him, and we're going to upgrade our Ninja Katana with as much money as we have. Just dump everything into it and keep going. So now our cat is noticeably more useful than the dog. Before, the cat and the dog did equal damage melee. Now the cat is just miles above the dog. The dog is just there for essentially rolling around the place. So we're going to cut up straight through this desert, try to avoid that last little guy, and we're going to go into the far-fetched cave. Those lasers at the start, they're meant to scare you, but if you roll right into them as soon as you spawn, you actually don't take any damage. So we come here, and we're at the next trial. Similar to Lioner, this is going to look a similar kind of room, except, gasp, Wolfen has got there before us. So we're going to make our way through. In this little section here, these floaty guys will shoot and then try to kind of run away from you for the most part. So I feel like they're kind of like boos almost, where if you're looking at them, they'll run away from you. And if you're looking away from them, they'll move towards you, sort of. So we did a pretty bad job of spacing those guys out. So we lost a little bit of time there. Now we have to go left and right to turn on some teleporters. And we're going to be grabbing our second RNG piece of loot here. So coming around this corner, we want to manipulate these movements. So hopefully once this guy dies, that second one who's actually coming towards us wouldn't be here. But he's here, so we have to beat him up. We could have saved a couple seconds if he had went the other direction after shooting. So now we're going to come back. We don't need to kill him, but there's a secret treasure chest up this way. And this also has a random chance of having an item, and it just happens to have this bard hat, which is what we were looking for. So this is a very lucky run, BT dubs. And what the bard hat does is gives you an extra mana back every single time you attack with the character wearing it. Normally, when you hit, you get 1 mana back. So now we're getting 2 mana back, and so that's essentially double mana replenishment, which lets us flame burn more, which increases our DPS by like double, essentially. Maybe not double, maybe like 1.75. As long as we're actually able to melee. So we beat up this guy, grab the second key to turn on the other teleporter, and now we can go see Wolfen and claim that second shard. So I will note this is an incredibly lucky run so far, getting the Ranger Vest and the Bard Hat, and also the Skeleton Armor that match the Bard Hat. Because you can get the Skeleton Crown, which has the same stats, and the Bard Hat, and then they don't mix. You can't wear them at the same time. So, Wolfen is basically resistant to magic, so we want to melee him more than we want to use our fire attacks. So we do use our Flame Per every now and then just to get a little bit of extra damage in there, but mostly we're going to be using our melee attacks plus Berserk to get constant high damage. And he does cast a lot of spells. The horizontal one is lightning and does a ton of damage, and the vertical one is ice and will slow our melee attack, which will slow our mana regen, which will slow our DPS and slow our magic DPS, and it's just bad. So, we kill Wolfen, and then this messenger comes in and says, hey, it was all a ruse, we already took it, this was just an illusion, please don't hurt me. We hurt him, and we carry on. So, Wolfen has one of our shards, which is unfortunate. And we come out, and surprise, the real Wolfen's here and says, haha, you're surrounded, sucks to be you. Thankfully, Hado Doggo shows up and ninja magics us away and saves us. So, we're told now that Hado has taken the shard to the capital city, the throne of Lupus, and we need to figure out, okay, how are we going to go get the shard there if he has it in his castle? So we talk to Kiri. Kiri says, Hado's got a plan, talk to Hado. And we talk to Hado and he says, hey, he's got his secret service, the K9, we need to figure out how to dismantle them. But as we walk out, they are literally standing outside our door. These are the K9, they're his super mages. So we have to beat this guy up, and if we get hit by his freeze, it makes this fight a lot more difficult because we have to dodge multiple waves of magic. So we dispatch that one guy, and then we go take a look, and oh, it looks like they are everywhere along the main road to the capital. So there's the throne of Lupus right there. And he suggests, you know what, if you want to dodge the K9, you can go through the desert. It's a longer route, but it's safer. Now, this is a speed run, so we're not taking the longer route. We are just going to YOLO roll straight through. And the fact that we have a faster roll speed means we can really just leave them in our dust. And by the time they get off any of their spells, we are long gone in most cases. Alright, so we're already here. Good job. Wolfen says he's going to go speak with Alias and goes inside. Now we're going to take a couple detours. First detour we're going to take is into the Tomb of the Follower here. This is a high-level dungeon. We're not going to kill anything. We just want to pick up a spell. So we need to de-aggro that dragon so we can grab this spell. Thankfully, there's nothing immediately around it. This works out really nice. And we have Graviruff. So Graviruff is a little black hole spell. And we're going to put it on the dog because it doesn't scale. There's no damage. It's literally just a utility spell. And what happens is you drop it on the ground, it puts this little black hole, and it just pulls everything towards that center location and holds them there for a while. As you might expect, when you're very low level and you're trying to take advantage of enemies, this is very good. So back there, we just grabbed our waypoint, so we'll be able to teleport back here in the future. And then we're going to sneak in from the left here so we can enter this door without fighting that one K9. So now we are in the 0 dimension where we see a Master Alias for the first real time outside of a cutscene. And we're going to fight Wolfen one more time. He summons some illusions, and we're going to have a go. So the first thing we're going to do is drop that black hole. That's us on the ground, that weird star thing. And that's going to pull all his clones in so we can smack them all together with our melee attacks. Because the unfortunate part of Wolfen is he's weak to melee, so we can't AoE as much as we'd like. So by having Graviruff, we can bunch up his clones and any adds he has with him together so we can make the most out of every single swing we have by being able to hit multiple targets at the same time. So now, unfortunately, one of his clones ran away there and kind of escaped the gravity, so we pulled him back, and now with the clones dispatched, we can just take care of Wolfen. So we're level 28 and he's 40, so a lot of his magic will just murder us quite quickly. So we finish him off and he starts laughing at us, but then Kiri shows up and throws some red lines around him. Again, no explanation for what the red lines represent other than red lines. And we steal his King Shard, which gives us Power Smash, which basically just makes our crits have a chance to do extra damage, or something like that. Makes our crits do extra damage. Whenever you see lightning come from the sky on our attacks, that's Power Smash triggering. Anywho, so we were told, okay, we have to go find the third shard now. So we run up, grab this waypoint, teleport back to Felongard, and we're going to rendezvous with now Kit Kat and Hotto, and they're going to combine their separate little sigils to tell us where the final shard is located. So they each have half of an emblem. Put them together. Yay! And they're begrudgingly working together. And we get a bit of a riddle to try to figure out where the final shard is located. So that leads us here to the Pern Cave. Now, Pern Cave is very interesting in that there's a lot of high-level enemies that take a lot of time to kill. So we are going to do our best to try to de-aggro as many as we can by going fast. We got this one bat on us now. We're going to go right to this corner, and then we're going to just nail around another corner, and you see we de-aggroed that one dragon. The bat from the start followed us, but we only grabbed one bat from this middle encounter. So that's probably as good as we can hope for because of our AoE. One bat, two bats isn't a big deal. But if we had more than enough, especially if their attacks were overlapped, it would be quite difficult to manage and we might risk dying. So in the cave, we got another direction of, hey, this is where we can find the shard. Another clue, so to speak. So we run through the forest, and we're just going to follow the main quest waypoint here. Go all the way to the west coast, and we're going to talk to Kiri, who says, oh, hey, the shard's on this island over here. And that's unfortunate because we can't get there unless we can walk on water. You should go check out that fishing village, and they can help you out. Now, here's my big thing. This is a fishing village with a lighthouse. Lighthouse means that boats exist. Why don't we take a boat over? Don't answer that. It's never addressed. You never see boats, so I don't know what the lighthouse is for. Anyway, we talked to the governor of the town, and he talks about the first governor who had discovered water walking in the first game, and says that that technique has been long lost, but his journal, the pages are, all around the place. If you can find his journal, we may be able to learn how to water walk again. So the dog has the scent of these pages, and we're following his scent here. I try to go around the top because every now and then this dragon actually moves south and we can pick up the page without fighting him. Unfortunately, I got frozen here, so my attacks came out real slow. So we grab these 3 pages, and then we head back to the current governor, and he's going to give us, thankfully, just as part of the main quest, a ranger cap. So now our dog has the full ranger set, and he's going to be rolling like crazy far every time he rolls. You'll see that every 2 rolls, the AI NPC gets teleported up close because he's lagging so far behind. So we have the 3 pages, and we bring them to the governor, and he says, okay, well, we're missing the last page. Can you go find the last page? And it appears before us, but as we try to pick it up, it teleports away. So we chase it a bit, and it leads us all the way around into the Bay Cave here. So the Bay Cave, we just got to go to that page and pick it up, but there's enemies really nearby. So we're going to do a little bit of a manipulation here, where we're going to rub up against the right-hand side, which is going to lure some of them over into the spikes. And you see that one goat that was on the bottom is dead now, so we don't have to roll as far in order to de-aggro them to pick up that page. Fighting them would be way too slow because they're pretty high level for where we are, so this is just a nice quick way. Since the spikes do percentage damage, they'll just chunk through those enemies, and then Bob is your uncle. So we pick up the page, which turns into the artifact of water walking, or not the artifact, the something. Another thing we need in order to get the ability to water walk. So, governor says, hey, meet me at the lighthouse. We go back to the lighthouse, and he is going to grab a piece of the lighthouse, plus the artifact or whatever it was we picked up, and use it to teleport us to where we're going to get our water walking. Ooh. So if you played the first game, you'll recognize this NPC coming up. We get to meet the first governor, who is an NPC in the first game, and Big Beefy Cat. And he says, oh, you think you two deserve water walking? Well, beat up this statue. So we only need to kill the big statue. And his shield is on cycles, and we cannot kill him in one cycle. So we're going to be doing our best to do as much damage as we can during each shield cycle, and then beat up these little things kind of in between to restore our mana. It's you should be able to beat him in 2 cycles, but it's tricky because he does a significant amount of damage. You see that I actually leveled up there, which is very useful. It refilled my health and let me kind of YOLO this last phase of him without really worrying about my health. But he chunks. He chunks. So we beat him, and now we're going to head over to fight the first governor, who's like, okay, cool, you beat him up, but beat me up. And we're going to try to use a combination of Berserk and Flame Purge, just as normal, to beat him up. Every now and then you may see the AI putting down, right there, the Graviruff. And the AI can actually cast spells, but he has his own mana bar and everything, but he's not reliable, right? So if I switch to the dog and put down a Graviruff, then that is fully controlled by me, and then I can switch back to the cat. But if I just leave the AI alone, I can't reliably expect him to even like open the fight with his spells. He won't just spend mana even if he has it. It's really weird. Anyway, so we finally get the ability to walk on water, and we appear on this island for some reason. And the main quest is up left, that island that we couldn't get to. But we're going to take a little detour first to do a little bit more grinding and bring us up to par with the rest of the game. So we're going to teleport to this other place and go to the Lonely Cave. Now, this cave was in the first game as well. It's got this one little hedgehog who is just a level 200 beast. Casts all the spells in the game and can pretty much one-shot us here. So, thankfully, we have Graviruff, and we're going to hold it in place over there and take the 2 chests that are not required, that don't require us to kill him in order to pick up. And those are going to give us the Jester Bee costume, which give us a ton of magic and a ton of defense for wearing. We're going to quit Warp Out, and thankfully that brings us all the way back to the lighthouse, which was the last place the game, I guess, decided we had saved. It's just very convenient. So we say goodbye to our Bard Cap, and that means our extra mana regen as well. But now we have significantly more damage and magic. I just realized I said that the Jester Cap gave us armor and magic. The Jester Cap actually gives us attack and magic, 150 each per item. So we're getting plus 300 attack and plus 300 magic, which, to put into perspective, is we were getting like 100 total from everything we had previously, just to magic. So you'll note here, especially in this dragon fight here, we're going to be doing tons of damage. We're like doing multiple hundreds. We're easily going over 1,000 with our magic and our melee now. So we're just going to wreck this boss. He can still do a ton to us, because now noticeably we have 0 defense. We used to have a bit from the skeleton armor, but now we have 0 defense, so we need to play a little safer now. We're just glass cannon at this point. So we beat that dragon, we get the final shard, and away we go. For you wondering about the little maze we went through, it's just questions. It's kind of like asking which is better, cats or dogs, and trying to get you to like conceptualize being good to each other. Anyway, we have 3 shards. We've rendezvoused. We're like, yeah, let's go get this, and then we're teleported back to the 0 dimension, and Alias shows up and takes our shards from us, which is very, very unfortunate. And at this point, he decides that to also let Lioner and Wolfen kind of reveal themselves. So this is the big plot twist. Gasp! It's revealed that Lioner and Wolfen are actually us, our characters. And that the plot twist is that those original kings that fell to corruption, they didn't like die to corruption, they were corrupted by Alias. And the prophecy of us returning was actually Kiri pulling us from an alternate timeline before we were corrupted, kind of wiping our memories and sending us on this quest to go defeat them. And since we are the kings of this world still, because we can interact with all the kingly things, one of which being all the quests that we would need to do to get the King's Blade. So Kiri was in on it, and I believe Hotto and Kit Kat were in on it as well as the mages. If you look back at the dialogue from the start of the game, you can hear kind of the mages talking about infinite timelines. So it only makes sense when you know the plot twist. Anyway, Alias leaves us here in the 0 dimension with no way to get out, and pits Kiri, Kit Kat, and Hotto against these like shadow versions of themselves to make them all depressed and sad. And we're gonna go beat them up and forgive them, and for deceiving us. And through the power of friendship, we're gonna get out of the Zero Dimension. So this fight here is a second Hotto fight, and Hotto puts up his stupid, annoying little whirlwind there. So we're just gonna pull them into place with a Graviruff, and then take advantage of our DPS and blow them up. You can see here he gets up one more shield before we could take him out, so we lost a couple seconds there, unfortunately. So we go over, talk to Kit Kat and Hotto Doggo, and they forgive each other and talk about their feelings and realize, what, we shouldn't have hated each other. There's no reason that cats and dogs should be enemies, so friends forever, yeah. And that opens up a door, or something opens up a door. The door was always there, whatever. We get the door, so now we're going to roll our way through this little maze and once again get out of the Zero Dimension and head back to the real world so we can take the fight to Alias. But unfortunately, you'll notice we don't have our little blue glow when we're rolling anymore. We've lost all the shards, which had all our royal powers, including the water walking that we just got. So when we come out of the Zero Dimension, we're on this island here, the King's Paw, without our water walking, so we can't leave. And we need to find a way to get out. So we got to stand in the middle of that island, like you saw me do a little loop, in order to start this quest. And we go to King Felongard's tomb, and it says, hey, you need to prove yourself worthy to come in. Take this key and go clear these 3 caves to prove your valor. So we're going to use a Graviruff here to pull the enemies out of the way. Run up top, de-aggro them, talk to that tombstone, which for some reason proves our valor, and gets our key to the next cave. So we're going to freeze those guys because we didn't have mana for another Graviruff. I was a little damaged here, so I just went to that save stone to get a full refresh real quick. And these Iron Maiden looking dudes are immune to everything, so they only take damage from spikes. And unfortunately, that guy just moved in such a way. He was being quite the pain and wouldn't just get on the spikes. Normally, you can kill all those 3 all together in the first wave of spikes, but sad time lost there. Anyway, so kill them, get the key to the next one. And this final one is a pretty good reason why having Graviruff is good. You can actually do this entire game without taking Graviruff. But I find having it just lets you do things like this where you don't have to worry about luring them super far away and de-aggroing them. You could just get them to a certain point, drop a Graviruff, and then freely take your time or go back without worrying about one straggler. Anywho, we got all the 3 keys, and we come to King Felongard's tomb now. And unfortunately, there's nothing inside, and we're kind of like, oh, damn, we were expecting something to be here. But when we read the inscription, it says that a king's, greatest weapon is not his blade, but his allies, and we get our water walking back through that little inspirational inscription. And as we're leaving, Alias or something whispers to us, says, hey, well done. With the Alias, all the hints point that is Alias talking to us. So we have our water walking. We're going to head back to the mainland now and try to put together a plan to figure out what we're going to do, because we don't have our power rolling, we don't have the shards, we just have water walking, so that's kind of cool. So our first thing that we need to figure out is we're going to do some reconnaissance on Liner and Wolfen and see what they're up to. So again here, this is just moving across the area as quickly as possible. We're in this particular section, we have to wait for Kiri, so me running into that rock at the start didn't really matter because she takes her sweet time floating over here. So we're going to spy on Liner, and Liner's planning to attack Wolfen, because even though they're both working for the main bad guy, the 2 of them are still like very racist. so the cats want to take over the dogs, and the dogs want to take over the cats. So we learned that Liner wants to attack Wolfen, so we're like, okay, let's go spy on Wolfen, and we're going to go to that waypoint now that we took way earlier in the game to quickly zip us right back to where Wolfen's hanging out. We're going to spy on him, and he's saying, I know Liner is going to attack, so we're going to plan an ambush, and that'll catch him off guard. Ha 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 ha. And Wolfen actually kind of hears something, so we're like, shh, but then he walks away. Wolfen also drops a mention that Lupus's tomb is valuable in some way. I forget the exact details, but so in order to go back to the main quest, we're going to cut across the ocean, and there's Cthulhu, one of the optional super bosses of this game. We do not fight him here. If you want to see that fight, you can go watch my 100% run. Alright, so we're back to the wall of Lupus, and we're going to go talk to Hotto Doggo, and he basically goes, oh, King Lupus's tomb, yeah, I know where that is, and I have the key, so just go check that out. Very convenient. And away we go. So after some clumsy rolling, we're going to make our way across the desert. Again, trying to make sure we don't accidentally lure any enemies with us. This segment is pretty easy. And we're going to go into this cave because the Lupus's tomb is actually surrounded by like brambles that we can't get over. So we have to take a little underground route. There's multiple forks in this area. And most people go to the right at the start. I go left. I don't know. I like it better. I think it's fairly even both directions. So we come into King Lupus's tomb, and this one says, a true king is not based on what he has, but what he can give. And that inspires us, and we get all our magical powers back, even though we don't have the shards of the King's Blade. And Alias whispers to us, ooh, we're in the endgame now. We come out, and we take another quit warp, and this is a super convenient quit warp, because it takes us right back to where we want to be. At the wall of Lupus. It is super, super convenient that it doesn't give us another checkpoint right outside that place. So we're going to grab the final quest, and all that's left is to take out Liner and Wolfen. So we go outside, and Kiri's going to list the plan to us and says, okay, this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to attack Liner. He hates magic. He's actually resistant, like, completely to non-magic. So we're going to hit him first. And then we're going to go attack Wolfen, and Wolfen's all about magic, so you want to hit him with melee. We already knew this at this point, but that's the plan. So we're going to dodge some cactuses, come back to this waypoint, head over to the capital, and we're going to do one noticeable little change. We're going to put a wand on our main character, because melee attacks don't do anything to Liner, but we need a way to get our mana back, because we can only get our mana back by hitting him. Now, wands also reduce your max HP in half, and you can see I accidentally put the wand on the dog first, and so now he is at half health, even though he didn't need to be, which is kind of unfortunate. So we're going to lure these guards away, because we are still under-leveled, and they would take a lot of time to kill, even with our extra buffs, so we're just going to lure them away, grab a rough, and then go into the door. Okay, so the Wolfen fight. Liner. So Liner himself, like I mentioned, in this first phase is immune to melee attacks. His entourage, which is the 2 jesters and a couple other guards, are not. But still a lot of people. So we're going to use Grab a Rough to get them all into a big cluster, and then use our Flame Purr to just do massive AoE damage to everything. Meanwhile, avoiding all the melee attacks as much as possible. So as you can see, the fact that we have a little wand here lets us just fling out some damage, and that actually does a substantial amount of damage to Liner himself, because the wand shoots magic. So we're still hitting him for, like, 500 or something every time we ping him in particular with the wand. Now his jesters are kind of annoying. They do get in the way a bit, but you can see here we've almost got them all finished. And in this fight, the AI using Graveruff actually kind of works out a lot of the time, because he'll just throw it down arbitrarily, and it tends to work out. So after we've dealt with his entourage, he takes off his helmet, and this actually makes him slightly vulnerable to melee now. But we have to fight him one more time, and he puts up this big shield, which slows our rolling, makes it harder for us to get away, except we have faster rolling distance and Graveruff. So what would normally be this kind of scary chase where you're barely able to roll away from him is just a walk in the park. And we just move him around, manipulate him, build up our mana, and flame for him as best as possible, and just try not to get whacked. So you can see how slow I'm rolling here trying to get away. I should have switched to the dog there just so I could get more further away, because when you swap characters, it actually changes what character you are. So I can switch to the dog, roll really far away, and then switch to the cat, and now the cat will be far away. Anyway, so we kill Liner, and he dies, and, you know, Kiri is sad over his death, because clearly Kiri was their guide before they got turned evil, right? So just like Kiri is our guide now, we are them. Kiri used to be their guide when they were, you know, doing whatever they did. So Kiri's sad, but hey, it needed to be done. Now let's go end this war. We're going to go take out Wolfen. You can see we just hit level 62 there, and I think Wolfen and everyone else is like level 80. So we are way under level. On our way back to Wolfen, there's this very convenient Hado shop where we are going to level up our ninja katana with as much money as we have saved up, which is going to give it another like plus 80 attack, which is really nice. And we're going to swap back to the katana. Unfortunately, this means that our main character is going to be at half health, so I am going to stop, and I was on a really good lucky pace, so I wanted to take a safety save, but I accidentally took to this quest NPC, so I wasted a couple seconds backing out of that, and now we're going to go into Wolfen's area. Now, before we get to the Wolfen fight, we actually have to do a little spike gauntlet. And like I said, spikes and these lasers, they all do percentage damage. And so we want to avoid taking hits. And as you can see, the dog just eats everything. And that could have been better, but it's the dog and not the cat, because the cat is our main damage dealer. So he starts this fight with two of his canine and himself, and you can see there is a lot of magic going on. But they're weak to melee, so we put up Berserk, and we just mulch right through those canine. And now we're going to do our best to just smash through him again using just our melee attacks as much as we can. And we're doing over 1k because he is super weak to melee. And using the Grava Rough just to keep him where we want him. Especially when he starts throwing orbs around. Those orbs do a lot of damage and can really get in the way if the fight ends up pushing us like into the orbs. So Grava Rough just gives us some peace of mind. Storyline-wise here, he calls in more K9 and tells them, you know, fight or I'll kill you. And they're just like, well, screw you, we're leaving. So he makes more clones of himself. And Phase 2 is just a joke. He doesn't cast any magic. He just tries to swing at us, so we just go beat this guy up over here. And we go into our final phase, where he has every spell in the game and uses them all simultaneously. And it is pretty crazy. But we use Grava Rough to pull him away from his orbs. And then just try to beat down on him. And you can see, because there's all the different spells have different timings, it's really hard to make sure that you're dodging them while also doing damage. Our dog got caught out there, and we actually ran into one orb ourselves, but we were able to take down Lupus without too much worry after that. So, sorry, not Lupus, Wolfen. So Wolfen's dead. Alias shows up and comments that it's impressive that we beat him, and he's witnessed this fight in countless timelines, and this is the only one where unity has triumphed. So, we're like, hey, is the war finally over? Did we do it? And unfortunately, a big black hole has opened up in the middle of the ocean, and Alias is calling to us, come to him, my pets. So we conveniently get a nice level up here, which just brings us back to full health and mana. And we are rolling straight onward to the final fight with Alias. So the Alias fight is pretty straightforward. He's going to try to convince us to join him. And then he's going to turn into a big eyeball with some hands. In that fight, we're going to use Grava Rough to pull the hands away from the main body. The hands are really the ones that do all the damage. And then we're just going to wail on him. Like I mentioned, you can do this whole run without Grava Rough. And it requires just a lot more dodging, and you know, it saves time because you're not going out of your way for Grava Rough, you're not using Grava Rough, but you can see here with the amount of stuff going on, being able to pull those hands just out of the way and wail on the eye just makes it so much safer. And you know, until I'm trying to get this run perfect, Grava Rough will stay. So we beat up the main eyeball, and we do not need to deal with the hands at all, we just need to beat the eyeball. So we hit it up, and he says, oh, well, too bad you can't actually kill me. And then Kit Kat and Hado show up and said, yeah, we're in this together. Don't worry, we got your back. And through the power of friendship, we feel an energy building inside us, and aha, the King's Blade has manifested itself. And at this point, Alias makes a comment saying, Dracoth, your sacrifice was not in vain. The King's Blade is here. And we're then told to put on the King's Blade and murder him. And oh man, the King's Blade just absolutely destroys him. So, important note, if you played the first game, Dracoth is the main bad guy of the first game. Play that game. You don't need to play that game to understand this game, but there's a lot of little nods, especially if you do 100%. Anyway, so they said, hey, we did it. Everything's going to be fine and right in the world. But oh, Alias is not actually dead. Gasp. So, Kiri said, okay, well, I guess it's time that, you know, we end this. Meet us back where it all began. So we're going to take our waypoint right back to the very start of the game. That starting island. And we're going to go talk to Kiri, and she's basically going to say, well, you know, paradoxes exist, and I need to send you back to your proper timelines. And in addition, you're not going to remember any of this. So let us know when you're ready. And it's very sad, and everyone's, you know, says some sad feelings. And we get this nice little selfie here. Everyone sharing one last hug. Look at Kiri, all sad and crying. Aw. And, that's Cat Quest 2 in 55 minutes and 11 seconds. But wait. So we hear some whispers in the shadows. Only one artifact remains. The King's Blade has been forged. And then the apocalypse shall be upon us. Ooh. Cat Quest 3. I'm super stoked, especially that they're planning so far in advance. But with that all said and done, that is the end of this run. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it was informative. If you want any more information or you want to start running this game, the links to the Discord and speedrun.com and everything else will be down below in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitch, Gumjaw, everywhere it is. And that's it. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Gentle Bros, for making this awesome game. And see you around. Peace.